Before time began, before the stars were born, and before the earth was formed, there was only God, the Eternal One, the I Am. He lived in glory, surrounded by light no human has ever seen. In that time before time, God was not alone. He created heavenly beings, also called sons of God. These were not humans. They were not angels like the ones we read about guarding people. These were mighty spirits, full of light, knowledge, and great power. They lived in the heavenly places near the throne of God. These sons of God were created to worship the Creator and to help carry out His will. They had no sin. They had wisdom, beauty, and strength. Some say they were called the morning stars, the watchers, the holy ones. The book of Job 38:6-7 says, "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" This means the sons of God already existed when God created the world. They saw the birth of earth and shouted for joy. So they came before Adam, before any man was ever made from dust. Some early writings, like the Book of Enoch, give more details. They speak of 200 sons of God who later came to earth and caused great trouble. We will see this in later chapters. But in the beginning, they were holy and close to God. They had names like Uriel, Flame of God; Barachiel, Lightning of God; Sariel, Prince of God; Azazel, Strength of God; Semyaza, the Seer. These names are not in the main Bible, but they appear in ancient writings that some believers read alongside the scriptures. So in the beginning, before Adam, before Eve, even before light shone upon the earth, there were the sons of God, the first watchers, created for glory. But not all stayed true. Some began to look upon the earth. They saw the beauty of the world. They saw the future of mankind, and something began to change in their hearts. In the heavenly places where there was no night, the sons of God lived in joy and peace. They moved through the stars. They spoke in thunder and light. They stood in the presence of the Almighty God. But one day something dark entered the hearts of some of them. Among these sons of God was one who was beautiful, wise, and powerful. His name was Hillel in Hebrew. Many later called him Lucifer, meaning light bringer. He walked among the fiery stones. He sang songs of praise. He was trusted and lifted up, but he became proud. He said in his heart, "I will rise above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will be like the Most High." Isaiah 14:13-14. Lucifer wanted to rule. He was not satisfied to serve. He wanted worship, not just wonder. So he gathered others, 1/3 of the heavenly host, the sons of God who began to follow his voice instead of the voice of the Lord. There was a great shaking in heaven. The faithful sons of God, led by one called Michael, stood against Lucifer. A mighty war broke out in the unseen realm. Michael and his angels fought. Lucifer and his followers fought, but they could not win. The book of Revelation 12:7-9 says, "There was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world." Lucifer was thrown down. He fell from heaven like lightning. So did his followers. These fallen sons of God became known as evil spirits, devils, or principalities. They were no longer shining beings. They were now twisted and corrupted. But this rebellion left a scar in creation. And something else happened. The other sons of God watched in silence. They saw 1/3 fall. They saw darkness rise. They feared what would come next. God, who sees all, made a plan. He would create something new, a being made from dust, not light. A creature that would walk on earth, not fly through the heavens. This being would be weak, yet powerful, lowly, yet filled with purpose. This being would one day judge even the fallen sons of God. His name would be Adam. After the rebellion in the heavens, God looked upon the void and spoke once more. "Let there be light," and light shined across the deep darkness. God separated light from darkness. He made the heavens, the waters, the stars, the sun, the moon, the land, and all living creatures. But this was just the beginning of his greater plan. God bent down to the ground, dust, dry and silent, and with his holy hands, he formed a new being, not like the angels, Not like the sons of God who lived in heaven. This creature had no wings, no burning light, no thunder in his voice, but he had something the others did not, God's breath. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Genesis 2:7. This man was called Adam. He was placed in a garden called Eden, filled with rivers, trees, and beauty. God walked with Adam and gave him rule over the animals. He named them one by one: lion, eagle, ox, serpent. But the sons of God, those still loyal to God, watched in amazement. They had seen galaxies born, but never had they seen God breathe into dust. The scriptures later say, "What is man that you are mindful of him? You made him a little lower than the heavenly beings, yet crowned him with glory and honor." Psalm 8, 4-5. God gave Adam authority over the earth, but he also gave him free will, a gift even the sons of God once had, and many misused. But Adam was not complete. Though he had the animals, the trees, the rivers, he had no one like himself. So God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam. He took one of his ribs and made Eve, the first woman. Together they were to reflect the image of God, man and woman, earthly beings with the breath of the divine. But not all the sons of God rejoiced. Some looked upon this new creation with jealousy. How could dust be given such glory? How could clay be called son? One among the fallen, Lucifer, saw an opportunity. If he could not rule in heaven, perhaps he could deceive those made to rule the earth. And so a snake slithered through the garden. In the heart of Eden, all was peaceful. Birds sang. Water flowed gently. Adam and Eve walked with God in the cool of the day. They had everything they needed, except one thing: the knowledge of evil. For God had warned, "You may eat from every tree in the garden, but not from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For if you eat from it, you will surely die." Genesis 2, 16-17. But in the shadows, Lucifer, now called Satan, had not forgotten his hatred. He was once a son of glory, but now, twisted by pride and rage, he took the form of a serpent, a creature lower than man. He crept into the garden with one plan: to destroy God's image on earth. The serpent spoke to Eve. "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree'?" Eve answered truthfully, but the serpent lied. "You will not surely die. God knows that when you eat it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." And so the trap was set. Eve looked. The fruit seemed good and wise. She ate. She gave some to Adam. He ate too. In that moment, their eyes were opened and innocence died. But something deeper had also awakened. Sin had entered not just their hearts, but the earth itself. Creation was cursed. Death came. Fear came. Separation from God began. But what many people don't know is that they were not the only ones watching. In the mountains and skies above Eden, other sons of God, called the Watchers, saw what happened. These were heavenly beings placed to watch the affairs of men. Some were grieved, but others were curious and dangerous. They saw Eve. They saw her beauty. They saw how men and women could feel love, desire, and life, and they longed for it, something angels were never meant to have. These sons of God began to desire earthly wives. They looked not with wisdom, but with lust. And so began a plan that would change the world again. They came down from the heavens, 200 in number, led by a being called Semyaza. They made a secret oath on Mount Hermon. They would not turn back. If one fell, all would fall. And so they descended. They took human wives. They taught mankind forbidden knowledge, enchantments, the cutting of roots, weapons of war, charms, and astrology. And when the women bore children, the children were giants, Nephilim, powerful and violent. They ruled the earth with cruelty. Blood filled the land. This was not what God had planned. The Watchers had broken heaven's law. The earth cried out, and soon God would answer. The earth had become filled with evil. Violence covered the land. The Nephilim, giants born from the union of the fallen sons of God and human women, ruled like tyrants. They devoured everything, even people. Their hearts were full of hate and blood. The once beautiful creation was now a place of fear. The Watchers, Those 200 fallen sons of God had taught mankind secrets they were not meant to know. How to make swords and knives, how to mix potions, how to enchant and deceive. They polluted the earth, body and soul. And then God spoke, "My spirit will not strive with man forever. His days shall be 120 years." Genesis 6:3. God was filled with sorrow. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of man had become on the earth, and it grieved his heart. Genesis 6:5-6. But one man stood apart. Noah was a righteous man. He walked with God. So God gave Noah a task to build an ark, a great wooden ship. It would carry his Zoar family and the animals of the earth, 2 by 2, so they could be saved. As Noah built the ark, the fallen watchers grew afraid. They had seen judgment before. They begged one of their leaders, Enoch, to plead with God on their behalf. Enoch, called the scribe of righteousness in ancient texts, prayed but returned with a message of doom. "You will have no peace. You will be bound in chains until the great judgment." Then came the day. The sky darkened. The earth cracked. The fountains of the deep burst open. Rain poured from heaven for 40 days and 40 nights. The Nephilim, once proud and mighty, were washed away. Their giant bones sank beneath the mud and stone. The watchers were taken by mighty angels and chained in the abyss, a prison called Tartarus, as mentioned in 2 Peter 2:4. God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into chains of darkness. Only Noah, his wife, his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and their wives survived. The ark floated upon the water, carrying the last breath of the old world. And when the rain stopped and the land dried, God gave mankind a new beginning. He made a covenant marked by a rainbow in the sky. But though the Nephilim were gone and the watchers were bound, their spirits remained, restless, wandering, seeking bodies to enter. These evil spirits, the disembodied souls of the giants, became what we now call demons. And their work was not finished. The earth was clean, but man's heart still held sin. And soon mankind would rebel again. After the great flood, which destroyed the Nephilim and cleansed the earth of wickedness, only Noah, his family, and the animals survived. The watchers who sinned were chained in the deep, dark abyss, waiting for judgment, according to ancient writings like 1 Enoch in Jude 1:6. And the angels who did not keep their own position of authority, but left their proper dwelling, he has kept in eternal chains under darkness for the judgment of the great day. But not all the sons of God had rebelled. Many remained faithful, yet they too were watching closely, for evil still remained in man's heart. Generations passed. Noah's children had children. The earth began to fill again. But mankind, though spared, did not remain humble. They began to unite under pride once more. In a land called Shinar, they said, "Let us build a city and a tower that reaches to the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over the earth." So they began building a tower, the Tower of Babel. It rose high with bricks and bitumen. But it was not just a tower. It was a symbol of rebellion. The people no longer wanted to depend on God. They wanted to enter heaven by their own strength. Now the faithful sons of God saw this too. They understood what such pride could lead to. They had seen it before, with Lucifer, with the Watchers, and with the Nephilim. God also came down to look at the tower. "Behold," God said, "they are one people and have one language, and nothing will be impossible for them." Genesis 11:6. So God scattered them. He confused their languages. The tower stopped. The people were divided into tribes, tongues, and nations. But here's the hidden mystery. What happened after that is mentioned in Deuteronomy 32:8 in some older translations. When the Most High divided up the nations, he fixed the borders according to the number of the sons of God. This means God assigned the 70 nations to the care of heavenly rulers, sons of God, to guide and oversee the people. But some of these rulers turned corrupt. Instead of pointing people to the true God, they demanded worship for themselves. Psalm 82 speaks of this mystery. God stands in the divine assembly. He says to the gods, "How long will you judge unjustly? You are gods, sons of the Most High. but you will die like men. These gods were sons of God, meant to serve, but they became idols in the hearts of nations, Baal, Marduk, Moloch, and others. They once stood in heaven, but now craved worship on earth. But God was not done. From the scattered nations, he would choose one man. From that man, he would build a new nation, not ruled by sons of God, but by God himself. His name would be Abram, and his seed would one day crush the serpent's head. The sons of God watched from the heavens. Some were still faithful to the Creator. Others had turned corrupt and ruled over nations as false gods. And though mankind had been scattered after Babel, pride still grew in their hearts. But God had a secret plan. He called one man, Abram, from the land of Ur, a land filled with idol worship. God told him, "Leave your country, and I will make you a great nation. Through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed." Genesis 12, 1 through 3. Abram obeyed. His name was later changed to Abraham, meaning father of many. From him came a people chosen, not because they were mighty, but because of God's promise. Through Abraham's line would come prophets, kings, and finally, the true Son of God. This son would not be like the heavenly sons who fell. He would be born of a woman, not created by fire or light. He would be humble, poor, and rejected. His name would be called Jesus, Yeshua in Hebrew, meaning God saves. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh and lived among us. John 1:14. The faithful sons of God watched in awe. They had never seen the Creator walk among men. Even the demons trembled, for they knew who he was. "Have you come to destroy us before the time?" they cried out. Jesus healed the sick, cast out evil spirits, raised the dead, and spoke with authority over heaven and earth. He did not fight with weapons. He came to win back the hearts of men, to reverse what the serpent had done in Eden. He was tempted in the wilderness, just as Eve was in the garden. But where Eve failed, Jesus stood strong. He crushed the serpent's lies with truth. Then came the cross. The true Son was betrayed, beaten, and nailed to wood, just like the ark was made of wood to save the righteous. He took on the curse that belonged to Adam's race. He entered death itself, but death could not hold him. On the third day he rose. Now Jesus sits at the right hand of God, higher than all rulers, powers, and sons of God, faithful or fallen. God has placed all things under his feet, far above every rule and authority and dominion. Ephesians 1:21-22. But the war is not over. The final battle is coming. The fallen sons of God, the ancient watchers, the spirits of the Nephilim, and the serpent himself, Satan, will rise for one last fight. The Bible calls it Armageddon, but the ending is written. The Son of Man will return in glory with his angels. He will separate the righteous from the wicked. Matthew 25:31-32. And the book of Revelation says, "The devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire, and death shall be no more." Revelation 20:10. Then the new heaven and new earth will come. There will be no more pain, no more sin, and God will dwell with man forever. The mystery of the sons of God, hidden since before Adam, will be finished. And those who follow the true Son will shine like the stars forever.